Hey guys, welcome to Project Metal Music's YouTube channel with your host Young, and we are here with the brilliant AxMinister. Welcome.
Thank you.
Could you introduce yourself and what you do within what you do?
Sure. I'm Steve Serra. I'm the lead singer, guitar player in the band AxMinister. We're from Boston, Massachusetts, here in the USA, and that's where I'm talking to you from right now. Band started probably got together first around 1982, 83, so that was quite a long time ago. We've kept most of the members. We lost our drummer a couple of years ago. He passed away. He had cancer. But most of the guys are the original members of the band, and we've gone through a few breakups here and there where we just kind of ran out of gas for a little bit and then got back together. But we've been making music ever since. Coincidentally, we're named after a city in the UK. Which is a quick story. If you want to hear it, I can tell you how we came up with the name. So basically, we were looking for a name, couldn't find a name, wasn't sure what to do. And a friend of a bass player in the band's dad worked for a carpet manufacturing company. So we were lining the rehearsal walls with all kinds of pieces of carpet and the foam that goes under the carpet. And I flipped over the carpet, and on the back of it, it said AxMinister. Now, remember, there's no internet in 1982. I had no idea it was a town in the UK, and I had no idea that it was a famous manufacturer. So we go, that's a cool name. That's what we're going to call ourselves. And there you go. So it's funny because the mayor of AxMinister actually found us on Facebook and reached out to us, and they have like this Yardie Party festival every July, and they want us to come out there and play. So it's on the bucket list. That AxMinister will be playing AxMinister. And the cool thing is we won't need posters because our name's everywhere.
Cool. Yeah, so let's dive into some questions. As a kid, what were you listening to?
Well, probably Led Zeppelin. Obviously the Beatles. All the British bands. The British bands, they had the American music and turned it into something really cool. The Beatles, of course, Rolling Stones. Led Zeppelin was the first band that was like, wow. I put on Led Zeppelin 2. I think I bought the record when I was 10 years old. I put it on and I'm like, what is that? I want to do that. I want to hear that. And obviously them, Deep Purple. Big fan of bands like some obscure bands, maybe like The Sweet. Love The Sweet. I think, bands along those lines. For American bands, obviously Aerosmith, they used to rehearse up the street from where I was when I was a kid, and we used to ride our bikes up there and put our ear up to the wall and listen to them practicing. And once in a while they'd come out and wash their cars and we'd talk with them. But the British bands were the bands that were the ones that were the most influential.
Cool. Who actually got you into listening to music? Was it your parents or sibling, or was it a journey of self-discovery?
My parents were always into music. They were fine. They were very open about everything. But there was a DJ that lived across the street from me, and he used to get all these promotional pressings. And I would go over there and he'd say, hey, you want to check this out? Hey, you want to listen to this? And that's where I started to listen to some things. He was turning me on to some bands that were just coming out. There were bands at the time like Bad Company and bands, like Foghat and, those kind of bands were just kind of getting started. And those were the records he was giving me. And I was putting them on, and you start to turn them on more and more. And then, as you start to wander a little way, as you're, getting to be 11 or 12, there was a band that was rehearsing down the street. They were just a garage band. And, it was so cool to watch them. And all of a sudden you say, I'm going to grab a guitar and can you teach me how to play? And the older kid is teaching you how to play. And that was the cool part. That was the part that was great about growing up. You kind of mix with other musicians, and that's how you learn. That's how you kind of figure out some things, and they kind of teach you when you jam with friends and you get in the garage and you stink for a really, really long time, and then you get better,
So, out of all the bands, out of all the music that you've listened to over the years, who was your main influence to say, I really want to pick up a guitar, I really want to become a musician?
Probably Aerosmith, I would say. I got to see them very, very young. I mean, if you got to see, I mean, they became this other thing as they got older, and they had their second life, so to speak. But if you got to see that band in 1973, like I did, I mean, they kicked ass. They were raw. They were a little bit like the Stones, but not. They had a harder edge to them. They had all the things that were cool, right? They just had all the licks. They had all the riffs. The Get Your Wings album, that Toys in the Attic album. That was the soundtrack of my youth. And I got to see them at a very small club, and they just blew me away. They were just so cool. And I'm like, I got to do that. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I want to do that. And you started to find some friends who had similar interests and similar record collections, and you just went from there.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think that's like a lot of how a lot of people got into music, especially from like the 70s and 80s, where people used to sort of share the records or the tapes with each other.
Yeah.
And says, oh, listen to this band. This band's really, really good.
Well, and on top of that, you remember, I mean, that was such a great time for music. Not only Aerosmith, but I got to see Van Halen in probably a 500-seat club. AC/DC with Bon Scott in 1970, I don't know, 76, 77. And there was a club up the street called the Paradise from where we live. So I got to see these Thin Lizzy, these bands that were rolling through that weren't yet megastars before they became arena bands. And when you get to see something like that, it's like, it's life changing, because these guys, they rehearsed and they played. They were out touring all the time, and they were live bands, and they just knew how to play. And so that was just a great time and obviously radio, right? Terrestrial radio at the time was, especially in this area, they were playing some of those new bands, and when they were rolling through town, it was really cool to be able to see them at that young age.
Yeah, yeah. I was sort of like the same back in the 90s, very early 90s, where some of these bands were just starting out and they're doing like the club circuit.
Yeah.
It's like some of them is just like thinking, oh yeah, some of them, yeah, granted, some of them were not very good, but some of them is just like thinking that band's gone somewhere and they went somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, AC/DC with Bon Scott, right on the Highway to Hell album. Are you kidding me? It's just like, it was so powerful. It was the sound and the attitude and the aggression that was just coming off the stage was just so cool. I mean, we got to play with Metallica during the Ride the Lightning tour. We did a couple of gigs with them, so we got to see that band just when they were at their rawest, just before they really broke, and those were cool times. That was great times.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I wish I was old enough to, especially in the 80s. I wish I was old enough to, because in the 80s I was just like 10 in 83, and then what I mean. I wish I was like old enough to actually go to some of these gigs,
Right.
like especially like with like say Paul Diano with
Oh,
Iron Maiden.
yep.
I mean? Then Bruce Dickinson when he joined. What I mean? It's like when he first
Different
started out
band.
with it.
Right, that's a different band. I think it's the same
Yeah,
band, but a different band. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
Dickinson took them to the arena, right? They became the big. But Paul Diano, that Killers record, that record still is fantastic. I mean, that record just,
yeah,
when I heard that record, it's like, you listen to like Murders in the Rue Morgue. Those songs off that record is just, that's a great record. I still love
yeah.
Number of the Beast. I still love all that other Maiden stuff. But that early stuff is just, it had like a punk flavor to it. It was great.
Oh yeah, yeah. And there's like other bands that I would have loved to go see just before they broke, such as like Twisted Sister or Wasp or um, say like very early Metallica or Megadeth or even Slayer
Yeah.
for that matter.
We got to play with Twisted Sister when they were a club band. We played a few gigs with them too. Great guys. Great guys. I mean, they were clean as a whistle too. I mean, I remember their tour bus pulled up and they were like, barbecuing outside the tour bus and drinking soda, no alcohol. And they were just great guys, had their ponytails, playing Frisbee. But when they went on the stage, it was like, whoa, just it was they just really knew how to entertain. And we had some great gigs with them too. Good guys. They really treated us well too when we played with them.
Cool, cool. So, were you in any bands before you started AxMinister?
Yeah, a couple of, local cover bands, some kids that you kind of, you put a few things together and, the drummer is, really not the drummer that you want to hear, or the bass player ends up with a girlfriend and they don't show up to practice. Little things that we're never able to keep together, and as you start playing more, you start to realize that, you don't necessarily, people who are your friends don't necessarily make great bandmates, and you got to look for people that have the same musical want to be on the same musical journey as you do, right? It gets to a point where it's like, is this a hobby or do you really want to give a shot at this? And that takes a certain amount of intestinal fortitude, right? You got to be able to find people to couple with, So yeah, bands that kicked around, but once we found this particular group of guys, at least I don't know if we were going to be great enough, but I knew we were in it for the long haul. So that's hot. That's half the battle,
Yeah, yeah. It's that's the thing with with some people. Some people will just just for have a bit of a laugh, and then
Right.
some people want to take it to the next level to see if they can actually do it or not. To
Well,
go actually go.
yeah, you got to be resilient. You've got to be really resilient. You have to. I mean, we took so much shit. Like everybody else does too. Just playing on Sunday nights. In the freezing weather for playing for 10 people. Just nobody showing up to the gig, trying to get paid. We'll take any gig that we would take, and there was, you almost have to have like a musketeer's attitude towards playing. And if anybody doesn't have a thick skin, forget it. You're in the wrong racket, because you're going to get way more no's than you get yeses.
Yeah, yeah. I've noticed that, especially over the last 30 years or 30 years or so. You
Yeah.
got to have like some sort of like thick skin.
Yeah, because you're shooting for something. I remember a lot of times everybody was like, "We got to get a record deal. We got to get this deal on it." And yeah, but I didn't know what that meant. Well, we never got together for that reason. We didn't play for that. We played because we wanted to be in a band, and you wanted girls, and you just wanted to rock and roll and go to a club. It's like the whole record deal thing. That wasn't the original mission, and it never was, because I saw that get passed over so many times. I mean, we showcased and people would show up, and this particular A&R guy is going to show up, and he just shows up and drinks your beer. I mean, we had so much of that I never put a lot of stock into that. Believe me, we tried. We had people shopping us around, but that was never the reason to play. And it's still not. That's why we're still doing it, because I don't play for that reason. We play because we want to make good music, really, and we want to entertain ourselves. And if people like what we're doing, awesome. If they don't, you can't worry about it.
Yeah, true, true. So we've got a question from my head moderator. This is Lisaboo. She asks, "Do you have a favorite venue that you played?"
There's two places around here that were really cool. We stayed mostly in the Northeast when we played, of the Northeast of New England, this area, running everywhere from the state of Maine down to like New York City. But there were two clubs in this area. One is still around. Place was called the Paradise, which was a club that I mentioned. I saw AC/DC there. I saw Thin Lizzy there. I saw Van Halen there. That club was fantastic. It had great sound, great lights, and they treated you really good. And if you had a gig there, it was cool. there was another club called the Channel, which was a bit more like a dive place, but it was cavernous. I mean, we played there with Metallica and a whole bunch of other bands. And those two clubs were marquee clubs in this area. If you had gigs there, you pretty much had a good chance that there were going to be people there that got to see you, and was going to be a good gig.
Cool. Expanding on that, well, another question usually asked by Lisa. What is your dream venue to play at?
Well, Wembley Stadium, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'd say opening up for Jeff Beck, but he's gone. Other than that, it's like, yeah, that would be a cool gig. That seems to be the place. I mean, in the States, there's Madison Square Garden and those kind of things. But if you could ever play Wembley Stadium, some good friends of ours, a band that we play with here, they're called Extreme. They used to be called The Dream, and they played the Freddie Mercury tribute concert back in the 90s, and they got to play there. And it was really cool to see friends who actually were able to play that gig. So, yeah, that would be fun.
Cool. So, what have you been up to, especially in the last 12 months?
Well, the last EP that we had done is completed, and we're getting ready to go back in the studio. We just going to be doing another EP. We're pretty much got it all arranged, and we've got all the reference tracks ready to go. So we're ready to book. We're probably going to go in, I would say, probably the first week in March, and then record another 4 songs and do videos to all those songs and get all the promotions done, new pictures, a whole new attitude. And we're still working on artwork for that, and looking forward to going. I'm really excited about the material. It's a little more aggressive than the last EP that we came out with. It's got a little tougher edge to it, and I'm excited about it.
Right. Yeah. I'll ask that question later there, Lisa. So, could you tell us a little bit about the latest EP?
The new one, or the one that we just recorded?
The new one that's just been released.
The one that we released called Butter Boom, which has got the bomb on the cover, that was really cool. We picked up a new drummer who's his name is Shannon XK, and he was fantastic in the studio. Really tight, really good drummer. Has that cool little Bonham feel to him, which I love. And we recorded a 4-song EP with him, and we got a lot of response with it. Got a lot of play with it. Did a bunch of videos, and we were able to jump the following of the band pretty good. So I was excited about that EP. Like I mentioned earlier when we were talking, we recorded the basics at a recording studio that was not far from us, and finished it at our home studio, and then sent it out to mix. A gentleman by the name of Bob St. John, who mixed Extreme, Dawkins, Duran Duran. He mixed out the entire record, and then it was mastered by a gentleman by the name of Adam Matzer, who he did Steven Tyler and Nuno Betancourt and a few others. So I was really excited about the sound of it. It was nice and tight, and it was up a little. It jumped up a level. So I'm excited for this next project to get it going and jump it up another level. Excuse me.
Cool. So this new EP that you're going to be going into the recording studio. Have you sort of like got any sort of like names for the songs or the name of the EP?
The EP, we're thinking of the EP. We're thinking of putting an old Screw on the cover of the record and calling it Screw This. So that's kind of what we're thinking about. The songs we have a song called Down to the Wire, which is pretty cool. Got a little funky beat to it. We have a song called Rat Race, which is pretty much self-explanatory about the feelings around the world now. We have another song called World Gone Crazy. And we get another song called You Monkey, which is about, having some addiction on your back. So those are the kind of songs that we're going to be putting out the next time, and looking forward to it. Good guitar work. The guitar player in the band, his name is Benny Ferrantino. Been friends with Benny for 30 years. great guitar player. Jeff Beck influence. He's jammed with Joe Perry and Brad Whitford and just a great guitar player. Has a little bit of Van Halen in him, and he's fun to work with. We do most of the songwriting together.
Cool, cool. So, um, when is do you know? Have you got any firm dates on the release of the EP?
For dates, you mean to play, or
Not to actually release the EP. As it is it going to be like in July, in like mid 2025 or later
yeah,
on in the fall?
yeah. I figure, well, like I said, we're probably going to try to do the basic tracks first week in March. Then it probably takes a couple of months to get the rest of it all recorded. We're only doing the 4 songs. I found it crazy to do full records now, just because everything's singles. Everybody's releasing singles, and if you release 4, you can almost get a year out of the 4, because the method would be like, release the song, then release a lyric video, then release a full video, then release the next song, and if you do that over 3 or 4 week period and do all the promotion, by the time 4 songs will take up 6 months of time. And so I don't want to take all that energy and put it into a 10, 12 song record, rather do it in small spurts. And so I figure I'd say by May or June, we should have it all completed and ready for market. And I'll make sure I send it to you too.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any plans on doing any sort of like merchandise for the new EP?
Yeah, the thing about merch now is it's got to look really cool, right? Nobody's going to drop, $50 for a hoodie unless it's really cool. So I've got a friend of mine that can do some artwork. We've got some T-shirts and things on our website, and they're okay. They just got the logo with, the logo on the front and the back. But I think we're going to try to develop something a little better. I mean, we've got a better fan base now than we had when we did this last EP. So people might be willing to drop some money on it and help the band out. So yes, we're planning to do some cool merch.
Cool, cool. Going sort of like staying on the same theme as merchandise, and I know some people who watch the channel will probably lynch me if I don't ask this. Have you got any plans on putting your music onto vinyl?
I would love to. I mean, who doesn't want a vinyl record? I would love to. It's really about cost, right? Can we get the return back? I don't care if we make any money. Can I break even on the vinyl? I mean, there's some companies around it. There's one called Disc Makers, and there's other ones that you can do short runs. So I would love to press vinyl. I mean, I love the sound of vinyl. I still have a ton of vinyl records. Just kind of a pain, takes up a lot of room to set it all up. But yes, I would love to do vinyl. The funny thing is, though, do you find that people are buying it now? Maybe you find it because it's like we didn't press a CD last time, and I didn't have a ton of people ask for it. Most people were doing downloads, so I'm kind of caught. I don't know where vinyl is in all of this.
Yeah, I know in the UK, at least. Last time I heard it was at least 25% to 25 to 30% of the market where like people actually bought music was through vinyl.
Really, that's great. I mean, vinyl sounds great. It's there's you go put on some old records. Yeah, there's some scratches here and there, but they sound. If you have a decent stereo, they sound better than CDs, right? There's no missing information.
Yeah.
I would love to. That's your question. Yeah. Yes, I would love. Yeah. I would love to.
Cool. Right, we've got another question from Lisaboo. She asks, if you could play with anyone, past or present, who would that be?
Jeff Beck. He's as far as I'm concerned, everyone else pales in comparison to Jeff Beck as a guitar player. I love Page, I love Clapton, Van Halen, but everybody took from Beck, and sad, and I never got to see him live. That's one of my great regrets is that, he came through and I never got to see him live, but Jeff Beck is probably what I think is the greatest guitar player. So yeah, if I could see anybody, Lisa, it would be Jeff Beck, and play with him. It would be fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Lisaboo. So, when you release the new EP, are you playing any dates?
We plan to. We haven't been playing much recently because the club scene around this area isn't fantastic, and we've done some. I've kind of done that. In our other amalgamations, we got to play with Metallica and Twisted Sister and Foghat and Extreme and Lita Ford. We've done gigs with all of them. So if we're going to play, which I'd love to, it's got to have a purpose. I don't want to go play some new music night somewhere and for $50 and lug around a bunch of Marshalls and have nobody there. So we'd like to do it. We're planning to play, but it's going to have a purpose, right? It has to have, I want to play and make sure that we're playing in front of audiences that are appreciative, that the gigs look right, the club PA is in good shape. It's a good show. I'm not going there to jam's sake. We want to play a real show. So it's definitely something we want to do.
Cool. So sort of like continuing on the playing some dates. If everything is sort of aligned, you got your financial backing, and you're guaranteed you're going to be playing in front of a good sized audience, would you sort of like travel the US or up into Canada or come over to Europe?
Europe would be great. I've had a bunch of friends who've come over there, and if you have the arrangement right, the equipment is all there, and you can make that work. A friend of mine just did that. They were a band from this area called Steel Assassin, and they did that. We would probably start regionally and work our way around the New England area down to New York, stay on the East Coast, and if things worked out, make our way across, because usually the middle of the country is kind of, it's not as big, and Los Angeles has changed a lot. It's on fire anyways. That's the next thing. But if we stay in the New York and the Northeast area, that'd be great. But yes, Europe would be great. That'd be a great thing to do.
Cool. All right. Where can people find you on social media?
Well, the best place to go is our website, www.AxMinisterband, AxMinster band.com. And that'll link you everywhere, to our YouTube page, to our Facebook page, to Instagram. You can check out the songs. You can watch the videos. Maybe buy a T-shirt, which would help. And that's where all the information comes. We have a pretty good little mailing list, so if you're interested, we can keep you updated, let you know what's happening, and we send out stuff early to fans who are on our mailing list and let them know and give them ideas. Say, hey, what do you think of these album covers? So we're pretty interactive with some of that stuff too. So yeah, go to the website and that'll kind of direct you to wherever you might be interested.
Cool. So this is probably going to be my sort of like last question. So guys, if you got any questions for Steve, please ask away. Please ask away. So my last question: any advice for people who are literally thinking about picking up an instrument? Have you got any advice for them?
Play. Just play. Don't worry about the algorithms. Don't worry about the Spotify. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Just play from your heart, and all the other stuff will fall into place. It really does. We've been together for many, many years, ups and downs, and it's the friendships, right? At the end of the day, it's the ability to make music with your friends. You'll find, and that, I think that's the way to find yourself, right? Because if you start worrying about, oh, is this a hit? Is this not a hit? Is the song 3.5 minutes? Does it have the right hook? all that other stuff will kind of fall into place. I think just go out and play and don't worry about those things. Record, put it out there, and have fun. Because at the end of the day, the journey kind of is the reward, right? That's why you're doing what you're doing. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because we love what we do. And that's in its purest form, right? Everything else after that is kind of business, right? Once you get to a point where it becomes all like, oh, what's your ROI and what's your click rate and what's this? It's like, but that pure part is just going out and playing and having a good time. And if you're good, you'll find your way.
Cool. Sound advice there. Sound advice. So we're going to be starting wrapping up in the next few minutes. But have you got any final words before we wrap up things?
No, I really appreciate you reaching out to us. I really do. It's tough out there for bands that aren't established, and it's people like you that are keeping things going and keep people interested, and maybe hopefully maybe 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 fans might reach out and say, hey, I heard that and I'd like to check your band out and I love this song, and maybe they become a fan, and that would be great. And that's the cool stuff, is connecting with someone like yourself. And I made a new friend, which is great, and I can't wait to share new music with you.
Yeah, it will be a pleasure. It will be a pleasure to listen to the new music, and if I can get at least one person to check the band out, I've done my job.
That's right. Exactly. That's right. Well, you've already done it because you made a new friend now, which is awesome. And I can't wait to share some new music with you and get your thoughts. And believe me, you'll be one of the first ones to get it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. So, Steve, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a total pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, guys, I've put all the links down in the description of the video there. So please go check out AxMinister. They are an absolutely brilliant band. They are amazing. So go check them out.
Thank you.
So again, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a total pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Total pleasure.
Thank you.
So guys, we're going to wrap things up. So until next time, we'll catch you all later.